Good afternoon. This is Ricia Chansky from the University of Puerto Rico at Mayagüez, and I'm here today with my friend Mitchell. Mitchell,
Hello.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And could you just introduce yourself to us?
Right, I am Mr. Pérez. I live in Rosario within Mayagüez, Puerto Rico. I am a student. I've also been a practice teacher for the last semester. And yeah.
Perfect. Mitchell, it's very unusual to be a practice teacher, to be teaching for your very first time during a global pandemic when you have to stay inside. How has that been going?
Right. So yeah, it's been pretty difficult. It started out okay because I started teaching a little bit before the pandemic actually started for like a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
After it started though, me and the cooperative teacher and the other practicing teachers, we had to find a way to move everything that we were doing in the classroom to an online form. And even though the class had a website, you could tell that the infrastructure for the education system really wasn't built for this. And the students also lacked the required, you know, conditions to be able to meet online and perform work and lectures and attend lectures online. So it was a challenge, definitely, trying to offer that material and offer those assignments to them when you weren't really sure if they were receiving them or if they could actually work on them effectively, if they needed any extra help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was also like I mentioned before, I talked to you about it. I did feel a little bad or guilty, I would say, because I knew that some students weren't able to perform to the best of their abilities. Yet it was required for them to work during this time, knowing that it is very stressful. It is, they may be feeling a lot of things that they're not used to. They may be feeling scared. They may be feeling lonely. It's a very difficult situation that you have to be aware of as a teacher. And yeah, that definitely made it very different from what I imagine a regular semester would have been any other semester in the last, I don't know, 10 years. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Mitchell, I'm sorry, and as I've told you before, don't feel bad because showing up and being there for your students is really important. You know, it's funny you said that this is a really unusual semester, and in some ways, it's reminded me a little bit of the semester after Hurricane Maria.
Right.
Have you seen any? Yeah. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. In Maria, I wasn't a practice teacher or anything. I was a student in UPR, and yeah, I remember it being very difficult to get back to classes after. We didn't do online on necessarily the same way that we tried to do this semester. Instead, what happened is that Maria caused us to not meet with anybody for a long time, and then one week we just came back to the university and we were given work and expected to, attend the lectures, do the assignments. There were some considerations from some professors, but it was still, difficult. Um, we had to, and I, I personally, I didn't get my internet, my electricity, or my water back until May of 2018. Uh, right, it happened in 2017, and I didn't. Yeah, I spent a little under 6 months, or over 6 months, without those resources. So whenever I had to work late on an assignment or study for a test, I had to stay at the university for as long as it would stay open, because if I came home, there was not going to be the environment that I needed to study or to do work, because no electricity, no internet, nothing that I could really do in that kind of situation.
Yeah, no wonder you have such an understanding for your own students who are struggling because they don't have internet at home right now.
Right. Yeah. I imagine that, knowing how that felt, being unable to work because of the environment and the circumstances. Um, it's definitely something I could apply or see in my students struggling with this as well. And I mean, these students have also gone through Maria as well, so it's it's different, but it's also similar. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Have you noticed anything with the students? I've been thinking about that a lot myself because it's the economic depression, it's Hurricane Maria, it's the earthquakes, it's COVID, it's the July protests.
right. And what was the question? Sorry.
Have you noticed anything in your students because they have so
Oh,
many things piled on top of them?
yeah. I mean, it's easy to see how stressed they. At least in the when I could see them physically, you could see the stress because uh, after this whole pandemic thing started, it's easy to forget about the earthquakes, the little earthquakes that were happening every couple of days or every couple of minutes even back when the year started. So um, it's just stuff that's piling up on them, and I understand that it's very difficult. I had students who
Yeah.
um, they were barely able to contact me. They didn't have services, and whenever an earthquake happened, I would send a message. Even after the pandemic, there was like an earthquake. I think it was 4 point something, and I
Yeah.
sent. I hope everybody is safe, just to make sure because I don't know how they're feeling. I mean, I don't have the kind of relationship with their parents or them to like check in with them every time that something happened. But I try to make sure that
Yeah.
everything was okay with them and that they were able to, if not work on the work on the stuff, because for me that wasn't it's important for what I was doing as a teacher, but as a person I just wanted to know that they were safe. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to think how much these natural disasters are impacting our students in terms of both their learning, but also their mental health and their mental well-being.
Exactly. I wish I could have had more conversations with the students, especially to discuss this further with them. But because of how limited the connection with them was, um, being a practice teacher and an online practice teacher, basically, it was difficult to reach that kind of
Yeah.
understanding. But you could tell a lot of them were struggling. I do feel odd about that.
Yeah. Yeah, Mitchell, it seems as though this is in some ways your practice teaching and your concern for your students is some way connected to the work that you were doing for the Mi Maria project because you were specifically focused on community response and how people in the community were responding to help each other when maybe sometimes government services weren't available. Do you want to talk about any connections that you see between what happened after Hurricane Maria and what's happening now?
Right. So back in Maria, um, as soon as it the hurricane happened, all the destruction happened, you would see people immediately go over to other houses or meet with their neighbors to make sure they're okay, check in, help them rebuild whatever they can at the moment. And over the next couple of weeks or months, or even the year, even um, you've seen that process of helping neighbor, people helping their communities rebuild after all of this. For the pandemic specifically, it's strange because you know that everybody's having a very difficult time, but you can't really help physically like you would after the hurricane because you're supposed to be away from each other. You're supposed to be separated. So, in that way, the best way you can help, the best way you were able to help is by staying home, and that doesn't feel very helpful, even though it is. Scientifically speaking, it is. Keeping your distance is very helpful, but it feels like you could be doing more. And but you also don't. You're not. A lot of people aren't doctors. A lot of people really can't uh, do the type of things that would help in that in this kind of situation. So it's kind of odd and strange in that way. Um, if I were to tie it back to my practice, my teaching practice, it would be just the fact that you want to help, but and doing whatever you can, trying to think of ways and creative ways to. Oh, sorry, my computer just shut off. To be able to build. build up that environment and rebuild what just fell. Because in Maria, our homes and our towns fell with the pandemic. A lot of the places where we connected and spent time with each other were unavailable. So it's not very different in that. It's like
Yeah.
a school can suffer damages from Maria, from a hurricane. A school can suffer damages from an earthquake, and the school can be left because of a pandemic. And in all those situations, the students are away from the place where they're supposed to be learning. So it's difficult for them in that way, and you have to find a way to deal with each one of those situations. It's not the same answer for all of them.
Yeah, that was very well said, Mitchell. Thank you very much. Thank you. Before we go, do you want to show everybody your bass guitar?
Sure. I'm a huge Beatles fan, so I got this Hofner bass guitar some years ago. Yeah, it's a replica of the type that Paul McCartney used in the Beatles. Yeah, I like playing it.